Are you worried about today's dire financial situation?
Put simply, I would argue the Biden economic plan is working.
The storms on Wall Street continue today after regulators seized the assets of Silicon Valley Bank, marking the largest bank failure since the 2008 financial crisis.
Do you worry you'll have enough to pay your mortgage, pay your children's college tuition, enough to retire?
I believe our banking system remains strong.
Regional banks in focus once again today as the market digests the fallout of the First Republic failure.
You have questions, we have answers. It's the Gold Standard with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Thanks for joining us. It is the Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn. Thank you for joining us. And Ken, today we are going to talk all about the broken financial system, because despite what the Biden administration is telling you, Janet Yellen is trying to sell to you, this system is breaking.
It's broke.
And
there's nothing that they can do to fix it. They just keep kicking the can down the road until someday it's going to be, uh-oh.
So the can cannot be kicked anymore. That's what they're doing. And we're going to talk about that today. What you need to know to keep your family safe, your money safe, all of that money you've worked so hard for. We are going to work through all of that today. But first, before we can talk about where we are today, we always like to look back and see where everything started. Way back in 1971.
Yeah, how could they do this? What happened to make all this funny money possible?
Well, our dollar, as you know, used to be backed by currency, used to be backed by gold.
That's
and
right.
They decided to do an experiment to make things better for you. Remember, the government says we're here to help you run the other way. Take a listen. This is Richard Nixon back in 1971.
I have directed the Secretary of the Treasury to take the action necessary to defend the dollar against the speculators. I have directed Secretary Connally to suspend temporarily the convertibility of the dollar into gold or other reserve assets, except in amounts and conditions determined to be in the interest of monetary stability and in the best interest of the United States.
Did that work, Ken?
I guess it would depend on who you ask.
Right.
Yeah. If you ask the central bankers and the elite and the people who want to abuse the banking system, yeah. I mean, but for Americans and for people who rely on their money to retain its purchasing power or gain purchasing power, no. It's created another bubble, and the question is that bubble gonna burst? And inevitably, yes.
And inevitably, as you say, we anticipate that a bubble can't just continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger. We know what happens. And so are you ready for it? Have you thought? I mean, the summer months are here. We were talking about it. People are just kind of grinding through the summer. But are you ready to face a fall, another financial season, without taking stock of where you are financially, what you are doing to protect yourself and all that money you've worked for? 855-322-GOLD is a number to call. Our friends over at Midas Gold, they're America First Patriots. They understand how gold and precious metals can help you, and you can call them anytime. 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD. So take us through a little bit of where we are today, because we've had bank collapses already this year. We've had interest rates going up. Ken, give us a bit of the picture as to what we should understand about where the United States is, where we are, and where we fit into the global scheme of things.
Yeah, Jen, a lot in that question, a lot of different facets of things that are going on. Mm-hmm. Inevitably, another bank failed over the weekend.
Yeah, take us through that, because I was reading the story and they said they were assuming deposits and all this. So tell us about what happened.
Yeah, not too much talk about it on television, right?
No, not at all.
Very quiet, but yeah, I mean, a very fragile banking system, as a lot of these banks are underwater on their bond investments as interest rates are now going up. So we have a fragile banking system because, of the debt situation. A lot of these lenders with these commercial real estate buildings, remember we talked about the zombie buildings, they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. So these lenders are in trouble. The second thing that's going on is obviously the value of our money is a big concern, and the privacy aspect of our money. So you have a very weak system that is going digital.
Right.
It's a system that is going to be monitored, and it's a system where the government wants to know everything that we do. So
and
that's
who
something
you are.
else.
And this is what's really frightening. Another big story this week we just talked about is that Nigel Farage in the UK had his bank account shut down.
Yeah,
Now-
and Dr. Mercola also, who was a big
Right.
vaccine opponent, had his bank accounts for his business shut down by, I believe, Chase Bank.
And what's most attractive to me about gold, and we're going to talk about some of the products that are available to you, but one of the things that I think is first and foremost important is that this day and age of big government and more government growing by the minute, gold and precious metals, it's still a private transaction. That means you hold it at home, you don't have government oversight, you can access it when you need to. You don't have to rely on banks that are collapsing. You don't have to think that Joe Biden's sitting there counting what you have in your pocket so that he tries to take it away from you, because that's a very real possibility. Ask the Canadian truckers, ask Nigel Farage, ask Dr. Mercola.
Yeah, and also, Jen, what else is going on is there's a time and place for everything. And the last 10, 12 years have been fantastic for investors.
Sure.
Because the stock market inflated and the real estate market inflated and the bond market inflated. But the question is why did that happen? And the answer is that a lot of this fake money has now just been put on the balance sheet of banks and of the Fed itself. And a lot of those investments are in bonds.
Okay.
And those bonds are now showing tremendous losses, over trillions of dollars. So you have a big bubble. Other countries don't want to buy our debt anymore, and they don't want to be involved in the dollar to the degree that they once were.
Right.
You know, they say it's toxic. I can't blame them. Look at what happened just yesterday as the Fitch agency downgraded the U.S. government credit rating.
Yeah. And what does that mean for people who don't understand? What does that mean when our credit gets downgraded? The Biden administration was upset about all of this, of course. But what does it mean to us?
Well, right. I mean, but the fact of the matter is as your credit is downgraded, it then costs you more to take out debt.
Yeah.
You have to offer higher interest rates to entice other people.
Just like us buying a car, right?
That's exactly right. Now, let's listen to what Fitch said, and let me read this here. The rating downgrade of the United States reflects the expected fiscal deterioration over the next 3 years, a high and growing general government debt burden, and the erosion of governance relative to AAA, AA rated peers over the last 2 decades. So, is that anything different than what you and I talk about every week? And I'm sorry to talk about the same thing every week, but 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I told you that all of this fake money and all of these handouts was going to lead to inflation.
Yeah, and you were
And
right.
they're still lying about that, and we were right. We also said that the banking system was going to be extremely fragile. You'll start to see more bank failures, and that's exactly what we're going to start to see. The bottom line is this debt situation, and they lied about that too. Yellen just came out and said that we're going to pile on another $1 trillion of debt by the end of the year, which is about $274 billion higher than they thought. These numbers are just going to keep compounding and compounding until what? The system implodes?
Right. And there's nothing left. And
So,
then what?
What do you do? Now, that's the question that you and I attempt to at least educate people on. And what every single American should be doing right now is they should be, number one, appalled at what's going on politically.
Amen.
They should be very concerned about what's happening with the privacy and the safety and the value of their money. And every single American can diversify and hedge their bets.
And that's the thing. We talk about gold and silver being a hedge. And that's what you're doing. You're taking a piece of your money, piece of the stuff that you've worked for your entire life, and you're putting it into gold and silver, precious metals. You're putting it into gold so that you take it out of the system so that you have a little bit of security in case all of this stuff goes wrong, because it looks like it's headed in that direction. Now, let's talk about some of the products, because when we talk about gold, you might think of it, I always thought of it as like Uncle Scrooge's money bank. But really, it's not like that. You've got these great coins. You've got all kinds of ways that people can put gold into their safe. So let's talk about that. We don't do that very often.
Yeah, and you may ask your advisor or your banker, is good a gold a good idea? And you may hear, no, you don't want to do that. It doesn't pay any income.
Right.
It's an inconvenience. But when you're talking about privacy, and when you're talking about getting money out of the banking system or getting money out of the stock market or the bond market, or possibly you may have an IRA or an old 401k that you just don't want to see all of it gambled in the stock market casino. So the 1 ounce gold eagle.
It's beautiful.
You know, it's a very popular coin. Came out in
patriotic.
1986. It is. Lady Liberty on the front.
Looking fierce.
A couple years back, they changed the back. It's just a different scenario of the bald American eagle. But it's a 22 karat gold coin. It is 1 ounce of gold, but it also has a little silver in it and a little copper to make it more durable so it doesn't scratch as easy. But when someone says, how do I hold wealth in my own possession? How do I diversify some of my banking assets? How do I kind of protect myself against the stock market ultimately falling? And we all know that ultimately we're not giving financial advice. It's going to fall because it's being propped up by fake money. It's the situation that we're in. But the 1 ounce gold eagle from 1986 is a standard gold product that will give people the benefits of gold and give them an opportunity to survive financially the next time that we do implode, pull back, shut down, freeze up, however you want to put it. Have some gold in your possession.
Because gold has held its value in history. All you have to do is look at how it's been used for, you don't even say decades anymore, for thousands of years, right? I mean,
it's crazy to think that gold, even from Lydia or ancient Egypt, still exists in one form or another. And we talked about gold being the only form of money because, in essence, it's the only store of value. Our paper money, Jen, is not, as it continues to lose significant buying power. And the more they print, folks, the more our buying power we will lose with our paper money.
It's worth the paper that it's printed on. So one thing to check out, and you could do it at Midas Gold, is the 1 ounce American Eagle coin. They also have these really cool, and they're my favorite, those little credit card ones that have like the little pieces that you can break off, because if, God forbid, something happens, something goes on, and you can't get your money, you can actually break off pieces of this credit card. What's that called again?
It's a combi bar, and it's good to have a backup plan, Jen. We have to have, for our money, we have to buy a backup plan.
Do it all.
You can't buy fire insurance for your house when the house is already on fire.
That's right.
You got to be proactive.
All right, so here's what you're going to do right now. Be proactive. Have a conversation with the folks at Midas Gold Group. I'm telling you, this is not a call center. These are people who know their stuff. They can help you through it. Talk about your situation directly. 855-322-4653 for Midas Gold Group. You can also go online, MidasGoldGroup.com, MidasGoldGroup.com, or give them a call, 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. There is more up ahead. It's a Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.
Dr. Gorka here. You're listening to The Gold Standard with your hosts, Ken Russo from veteran-owned Midas Gold Group and Jennifer Horn. Owning private money in the form of physical gold and silver is perhaps more important than ever to your long-term financial security. As U.S. banks fail, the Biden administration sends hundreds of billions abroad while depleting our strategic oil reserves. However, the biggest financial threat may be coming from within: central bank digital currency. The patents have been filed and the big banks have released plans for implementation. Midas Gold Group sees tyrannical implications, the end of cash, the end of financial privacy, big government able to see your every purchase. Could there be ties to social credit? Hear more commentary on the political and economic issues that affect your financial security right here on the Gold Standard. You can create your own Gold Standard with a call to Midas Gold Group, 855-322-GOLD. That's 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com.
Welcome back to the Gold Standard Radio Show. Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn at the ready. We thank you for joining us today.
In the flesh.
In the flesh, baby.
Yeah, you knew that.
In the flesh, of course.
Thunder Lips' hair in the flesh, baby.
Flesh, baby.
I love that one. Yeah.
Make sure, if you want to, check out Midas Gold Group. You got to do it. You've heard us talking about it all program long. Hopefully you join us each and every week. You want to call 855-322-4653 today. 855-322-GOLD. And let's talk about some of the news that we've been hearing. We've been hearing that the dollar is going to be losing its world reserve currency status. We've heard the talk about these.
No.
What are you?
Are you a racist?
I am something like that. I'm
Are
one
you
of those,
one of those MAGAs?
an ism of some kind,
All
right?
right.
Racism, sexism, MAGAism. It could be something. And by the way, congratulations, sir, because I hear that you've taken on a new identity.
I was thinking about as identifying as a 30-year-old trans male.
Well, that's nice. And, and
I don't know.
That's how I like him. And I also,
I want to be a little bit more relevant, a little bit more 2023.
a little more hip, trendy, and now. I'm going to be a unicorn.
Kicking it around. Maybe people can call and let me know what they think.
And that number, 855-322-4653. Just ask for Ken directly. I'm going to identify as a unicorn.
I mean, if Dylan Mulvaney could get $40,000 a speech, I can get at least $400.
And I bet you he's not smart enough to ask for that in gold, right?
Don't say he.
She. Dylan. No. Oh.
Dylan. She.
All right, let's get to it.
Let's move on.
Back to the
Yes.
news. All right, so the dollar reserve currency status of BRIC nations. Take us through what's going on.
Well, don't forget, since the 50s, 60s, United States went into bed with Saudi Arabia and we became the world reserve currency, petrodollar, that sort of thing.
And isn't it interesting, something notable to point out, that if you hear every president who goes into office always says, we're going to get tough. Every time, right? And what happens?
I don't believe anything that they say, nothing. But,
Right.
Regardless, the dollar has had a big benefit. The debt situation of the United States has been able to benefit greatly from being the world reserve currency, which means all commodity trades ultimately end up having to be traded in the dollar.
Right.
Which always creates a lot of demand for the dollar. So more demand means, higher prices, more worth. That's disappearing. It's definitely going in the wrong direction.
Now, why? Why is that happening?
Well, a lot of these other countries, they realize that, look at what we did to Iran. Look at what we did recently to Russia, where they sanctioned us and we had dollars. They froze them. They're using the dollar as a weapon. We really don't need to be so much in the dollar. We don't really need to take out so much debt when it comes to the United States. Why don't we have our own currency? And why don't we, develop the BRIC nation status where like 25 more people want to join?
Right.
And why don't we band together and have a currency backed by commodities like real stuff, like gold and land and that sort of thing. So that's definitely a possibility, and it's in the works. And the more that happens, the less the dollar will be in demand. The less demand, the lower prices, the less it's worth.
Right.
So that affects every single American. Not to mention, do people realize that the interest on our debt is now more than like we pay for military?
Isn't that incredible?
And it's going to get worse.
Interest payment.
Just interest. So we're at 33 trillion, 34 trillion, probably maybe by the end of the year. 40 trillion over the next couple years, 50 trillion. When is it going to stop?
And when's enough? And you hear all these people who come around and they say, we're going to balance the budget. It's like that ship has sailed, right? I mean, when we think all of the money
there will never be a balanced budget. It's actually physically impossible, based on, we have to print the money to just pay the interest.
And then
so how could there be a balanced anything? So it's out of control. And if you're a person at home, let's just say you had a thought.
Okay. Bing. Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on.
Bing.
Ding.
Yeah. I don't want to risk everything that I've saved, everything that I've invested. I don't want to risk everything that I have in such a crazy financial system. What could I do? Well, what you can do is you can take some of those assets that you don't trust, those paper assets, that you've been told time and time again that are safe.
Yeah.
We all know, we don't even know what they are. We all know that they're risky and it's a casino and we don't know how it's going to end. You can take some of those paper assets in your IRA, in an old 401k, in your existing bank account, wherever, annuities, stocks, whatever you have, and you can take some of those paper assets and you can convert it into some gold, into some silver. You could hold it yourself. And no matter what happens with this system, this reckless system, this broken financial system that we have, regardless of what happens, you will at least have that.
Yeah, you're hedging your bet. You're taking it out of the system. You don't have to rely on banks. You don't have to rely on the government. Here's a thought. You can just rely on yourself. You can rely on your family. And, I'm a pretty lucky girl, not to go back just a couple of seconds here. I'm a lucky girl doing this show because I'm surrounded by two handsome men. One, Ken Russo, The other, Mike Gary, who's our producer extraordinaire, who just said that the last payment on the debt was $625 billion just for the interest. Now, how is that? I mean, it really, just to go back to it and underscore, how is that sustainable? That's a lot of money that is being printed up, and we expect the system to be there for us in another year, another 2 years, another 5 years, another 10 years. It's a great correlation that you made between fire insurance and your house being on fire. Don't rest on your laurels. Don't just say, you know what, it's summer, I don't want to think about this stuff. What are you waiting for? Something is coming down the road, whether it's a year or 2 years or 5 years, as we say.
Maybe a week.
Maybe a week.
I mean, yeah,
maybe 5
that's the
minutes.
problem. When you're talking about such wealth destruction, possibly of our lifetime, how could you put the crystal ball is not working. I mean, how do you know? So they're going to try to do whatever they can to hold on to their advantages in their system for as long as possible. But we know it's our money, and they want it to run their system. Not acceptable.
Yeah.
You know.
This is the moment, guys. If you are sitting here and you're listening to the radio show, thank you. But do yourself a favor and call Midas Gold today. MidasGoldGroup.com is the website if you want to check them out first. 855-322-GOLD. 855-322-GOLD. You're not going to get a call center. These are real people who are willing to talk through your situation. Whether you think you have enough money around to invest in gold or not, take the opportunity. As you mentioned, there may be accounts that you can convert into gold by calling 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653. Let's talk about gold being a bigger part of the monetary system moving forward, because that is going to happen.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and we talked about last week, too, the mentality of owning gold. Remember?
Sure.
You don't have to be scared to own gold.
No.
I would be more scared, literally, if I had all of my money at this point wrapped up in a fake, manipulated bubble system.
That's right.
And that's what we're in right now. And it's evident by what's going on. And if you want an explanation of what's going on, call the office. We don't have time to explain it in a short show, but it's fake.
Yeah.
People, our money's fake. The debt, though, is going to cause real consequences. You don't have to lose all of your money when those consequences come home to roost. And the way that you can protect yourself is physical gold and physical silver. Hedge your bets, get some of your hard-earned money and your hard-earned investments out of this market, get it in your own control, build your own situation, your own gold standard, as we like to say.
And when we talk about the mentality of owning gold, which we did last week, the mentality for me is just having some personal responsibility and having some control, because right now with our money, we give a lot of trust to people who don't deserve it and who have not earned the trust, and a system that has not always benefited us. So if you want to take over some control and you want to have that personal responsibility back in your life when it comes to probably the most important thing, it's your finances. It's how you're going to continue to protect and defend and feed and pay for your family. This is the moment. 855-322-GOLD.
That's exactly right. I mean, why else do we work? Why else do we wake up early? Why else do we put our heart and soul into something, to try and gain a little wealth or gain some savings? You got to protect it. I mean, I don't know what people are waiting for until it's too late. So you know what they say, you go bankrupt slowly and gradually, then all of a sudden. So I would tell people we're getting very, very close to a tipping point. I would tell them that I would expect anything at any time. I would tell them that the next 10 years are going to be nowhere near what we've seen in the last 10 years because of all this fake printed money out of thin air. You better protect yourself before you don't have an opportunity to do so.
And it's easy to call Midas Gold Group. Again, they are nice people. This is not a call center. It's not a hard sell. It's what's your situation? Can they help you? Can they help you protect yourself, protect your family, protect your wealth? 855-322-4653, 855-322-GOLD. And there's no obligation. You can call and ask these questions.
Not to mention the privacy aspect, Jen.
Yeah,
even the January 6th people, I mean, the banks shared their credit card information of all those people without their knowledge.
PayPal,
what is that?
Shutting them down. I mean, it's really interesting.
Out of control.
Don't find yourself in a bad situation. Get back in control of your money. 855-322-4653, 855-322-4653. That is the number for Midas Gold Group. Check them out. Use them. I use them. Dr. Sebastian Gorka uses them.
Use us.
Please.
Yes.
Yeah, use and abuse.
Use us. Use Ken.
855, we like to. 855-322-GOLD, 855-322-4653, MidasGoldGroup.com. Thanks for joining us. It's a Gold Standard Radio Show with Ken Russo and Jennifer Horn.